With hundreds and hundreds of cards released in 2024, here are a few of my standout picks for the year. What's up, y'all? It's Melder, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my favorite card of each type that was released in the year of 2024. Now, with creatures, we're going to separate them into two different cards. The first one is going to be legendary creatures or commander, and the second one is going to be non-legendary creatures, just because I feel like I want to separate my favorite commander of the year. And my favorite commander of the year is Marchesa, Dealer of Death. Now, if you've seen my past videos or you're familiar with the channel, Marchesa is a commander I've talked about forever, since April or when Outlaws came out. And although Outlaws wasn't my favorite set aesthetically, I don't care for the Wild West theme. Mechanically, she is extremely fun, and I've had a ton of fun brewing and playing her. So Marchesa is Grixis mana for a 3/4 legendary human rogue. Her ability reads, whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 generic mana. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Now, committing a crime includes targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard. So all those are committing a crime. Now, I've already made a full deck tech video about my Marchesa list. I have her as a Grixis artifact list that just really values you out with card advantage. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you want to see how I built her, you should check that one out. But basically, what I really like about her is how flexible she is. The deck building process was a ton of fun. I was able to go on Scryfall and look up a ton of different niche, cheap artifacts that target opponents for free. And just playing her, goldfishing her, building her in general, I just really, really loved this card, and this is one of my favorite cards of the year. Next up is going to be my favorite non-legendary creature, and that is going to be 9 Lives Familiar. 9 Lives Familiar is 1 and 2 black for a 1/1 cat creature, and its ability reads, this creature enters with 8 revival counters on it if you cast it. When this creature dies, if it had a revival counter on it, return it to the battlefield with 1 fewer revival counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. So this is perfect for people who play black-based aristocrat strategies, sacrificing their own creatures for value or for special effects. Me being one of those players, I absolutely adore this card, and I also love cats, so that's a bonus. The showcase art is so adorable, and I've put this card in quite a few decks already. I wish I had more. I'm probably going to buy some more when given the chance. And yeah, me playing all of those black sacrifice decks, this card has been an absolute house and insanely useful for my boards. Next up, we're going to stay in Foundations, and we're going to talk about my favorite Planeswalker to be released in 2024, and that is Kaito, Cunning Infiltrator. Before I get into Kaito, I'm going to give a quick shout out to that flip card Grist from earlier in the year. I think that card and Planeswalker is super cool, though I like Kaito a little bit better. Now, Kaito is 1 and 2 blue for a 3 loyalty base Planeswalker Kaito. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you put a loyalty counter on him. And he has 3 abilities. The +1 is up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked, and then you draw a card and discard a card. Its -2 is create a 2/1 blue ninja creature token, and when you -9, you get an emblem. Whenever a player casts a spell, you make a 2/1 blue ninja creature token. So this card is an absolute house. It does basically everything you want it to do. It has card filtering. It can create a board state on its own, and it also is pretty hard to deal with considering you can get loyalty from doing damage. So you could get up to like 4 loyalty in a turn if you have enough creatures and you attack enough players. So I think this card is very solid. I think it being 3 mana means you can get it out pretty easily. It's not super abusable because it is mainly specific to ninjas, although I'm sure other decks besides ninjas could play this if they wanted to. maybe things that care about commander damage, making your creatures unblockable could be very helpful as well. And it being 2 blue pips kind of restricts it to maybe the 3 color maximum, but it's probably like a Dimir deck because most ninjas are blue and black. So I thought Kaito was quite interesting. I definitely like this card quite a bit. I like the art on it, and I like how toolboxy it is in terms of all the abilities it has. Although I wasn't really a fan of that many planeswalkers that came out this year, I think Kaito kind of ekes out the rest of the limited pool. Moving along here, we're going to talk about one of my favorite cards of 2024, like top 2 or top 3 cards of 2024. This card is so sick, and it is Ghost Vacuum. So it is 1 mana for an artifact from Duskmourn, and it has 2 tap abilities. The first one is exile target card from a graveyard, and the second is 6 and tap. Sacrifice Ghost Vacuum, put each creature card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control with a flying counter on it. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types, and you can only activate it as a sorcery. So I think Ghost Vacuum is an extremely amazing card. I think it is quite powerful. I think it's very useful, especially in formats like Commander, where it's more creature based, more casual, so on. This thing is graveyard hate. It is a late game investment. You can use it later on to make a big splashy turn with all the creatures that you have exiled. And it's just it's just a sick card. I've used it a lot, of course, in my Marchesa Dealer of Death deck because it does count as a crime. And using its 6 ability, its 6 and tap ability, has been super splashy, super fun to resolve, and has won me a game or two. So, love Ghost Vacuum, love the design of this. The amount of stuff you can do with it is crazy. It has flying counters that you can move if you care about counters, like moving counters across creatures as well. I think this is a very solid card that you could add in pretty much any deck. And because Graveyard Hate is very, very important, especially targeted Graveyard Hate. So, really love Ghost Vacuum, one of the best cards for me in 2024. And if you haven't run it, I suggest giving it a try. After that, we're going to talk about enchantments. Now, I want to quickly shout out the rooms mechanic from Duskmourn. I think that rooms are a pretty sick addition to enchantments that came out in 2024. But the enchantment that I wanted to talk about the most, or one that I think is very underrated, is a black enchantment from Duskmourn, Nowhere to Run. Now, this is 1 and a black for an enchantment with flash, and when it ETBs, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. So it's a removal spell. And creatures your opponents control can be the target of spells and abilities as though they didn't have hexproof. Ward abilities of those creatures don't trigger. Now, this is an uncommon from Duskmourn, and this card does so much, and I've really appreciated this card every time I've played it. It has not missed for me yet, and it's just a sick card. It gets people so confused. It comes out of nowhere. They have no idea. Some people have no idea this card even exists, and they're just like, "What does it do?" And then if they play like a Voltron strategy, it helps shut that off, makes them way more interactable, and also protects you quite a bit. So yeah, Nowhere to Run is amazing. It has flash, so you can save it to the last second just in case someone has removal. It is removal on itself, so it can hit a creature and also set you up to hit a something with like Swiftfoot boots on it, or a lot of commanders nowadays have pesky ward abilities, and this not only helps you but helps the table remove any threats that have hexproof or ward. It doesn't affect any of your creatures, but it just says creatures your opponents control can be the target of spells and abilities. So this is a great way to kind of shut down hard to interact creature based like Voltron strategies. Dying to flying commander damage can always be pretty difficult to do, and with the amount of limited removal that people have in the format, and a lot of people don't really run that many board wipes, Nowhere to Run is a great addition. It's quite cheap in terms of its mana cost, and it definitely catches people off guard in a great way. Now, I mentioned this next card in my top cards for Bloomborough, and my favorite sorcery of 2024 is Coiling Rebirth, which is a black sorcery. It is 3 and 2 black for a sorcery with Gift a card, and it reads return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then, if the gift was promised and that creature isn't legendary, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. So if you don't know what gift a card is, it is a mechanic in Bloomborough where you promise a card or promise a gift where an opponent gets a card in this case when you cast the spell, and then if you do complete the gift, then you get additional effects. So Coiling Rebirth is an amazing reanimation spell. I use it quite often in my Massacre Girl deck as a finisher, and although it is 5 mana, most of the time you are getting a lot of value that is more than 5 mana's worth when you cast the spell. Oftentimes I'm reanimating and copying a creature from my graveyard like the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which will just outright win and end you games or end games for you. Also, you could reanimate things like Hoarding Broodlord to get 2 tutors and then convoke for both of them as well. And you can use that additional copy as a way to cast the spell with Convoke because the summoning sickness does not matter for Convoke there. So there's a lot of potential with Coiling Rebirth. I think this is a very interesting reanimation spell. I think in a lot of my decks, Coiling Rebirth has proven to be a very valuable addition and a great way to finish games. After sorceries, we have instants, and my instant of 2024 is going to be an uncommon from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. That card is Return the Favor. Now, Return the Favor makes use of the Spree mechanic, which was released in Outlaws, and it's kind of similar to Multi-Kicker, where you can add additional mana to the cost to get additional effects, and it's also kind of modular because you can pick and choose. You don't have to choose both of them if you don't want to. Now, Return the Favor is base 2 red mana, and the +1 ability is copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. You may choose new targets for the copy, and the other ability is +1 mana. And you can change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. Now, this card has proven to be very useful to me. Every time I've played it, it has won me games, it has saved my life many times, and this is a really great take on a redirect spell because it can redirect targeted and activated abilities, or triggered and activated abilities rather, which I think is something that is kind of hard to interact with most of the time, especially at instant speed. I think if you have access to red, considering this card and testing it, putting it in your deck, I highly recommend it. This card is absolutely amazing, and the fact that it can not only double your own stuff, but kind of almost like deflecting SWAT other things that may be targeting you or things you control away is just an absolute toolbox of a card. Super useful, and one of my favorite cards to play in 2024 overall. Now, my last favorite card of 2024 is going to be a land. Now, there were quite a few pretty solid utility lands that have come out, like Shifting Woodland, for example, is one of them. I really liked Monumental Henge from Modern Horizons 3, but my absolute favorite card to come out of 2024 in terms of lands has been Spy Master's Vault. Now, Spy Master's Vault is a black land from Modern Horizons 3. It enters tapped unless you have a swamp. So I think I use this card in Massacre Girl, which is a mono black deck, and I have never had any issues getting it into the battlefield untapped. It can tap for 1 black, and then for 1 black and tap, target creature you control connives X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. And in case you don't remember what connive does, it's draw X cards, then discard X cards, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. Now, you can obviously tell that something like Massacre Girl is going to be perfect, or this card is going to be perfect for a Massacre Girl deck, but this card, after like one-sided board wipes, for example, or giving your creature protection, then board wiping, things like that, or one very large combat sequence. Also, if you care about sacrifice strategies, aristocrat strategies with like tokens involved, this card can be an insanely valuable utility land. Not only can it buff yourself up if you're doing like a lot of sacrificing things, but it can also help you utilize someone else's turn if they are doing all the sacrificing. So this can kind of push you up in the arms race if someone is going off on their turn and killing a lot of things and bringing a lot of things back. It is card advantage, or rather card filtering more so, with the draw X being a could be a ton of creatures. And I think its ability to come in untapped and the utility it has from its secondary ability has proven to be an absolute amazing ability or amazing card for all of my decks, or a lot of the decks that can run it and make use of it. So that's going to be it for my favorite cards of the year of 2024. I think 2024 overall has been a solid year in terms of cards that have come out. I've liked a lot of cards I've seen. I've liked a lot of set mechanics that I've seen and played with, from drafting and so on. So hoping 2025 is an improvement upon that. We want things to get better, of course. And I'm very excited to see the cards to come out and what types of things will inspire me to deck build or to play more, because I mean that's the beauty of the game, of course. And if you have any favorite cards of 2024, please definitely share them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them and talk about them. Love to see what people are doing with new releases and where they're playing them. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and peace out.